Greetings and salutations, friends and gamers of all stripes. My name is GM Dave. I am your man behind the screen, and welcome to the first Palanor update vlog. But before we get started with the vlog, a couple of announcements, starting with first and foremost, where have I been the past couple of weeks? Well, to keep it short and simple, I have been sick and working. My company is one of the few that is considered to be an essential service, so we are still open even during the whole coronavirus quarantine thing, and that is in spite of the fact that California is ostensibly on lockdown. An order was given, I believe, last week for most businesses to shut down. As far as I'm aware, the statewide order is still not considered absolutely mandatory, but I know certain counties and cities are treating it as mandatory. Mine, fortunately, is not, and fortunately, my work is considered to be essential, so I'm still open, I'm still working, which is good because that means I'm still getting a paycheck. And briefly during this past couple weeks, I also did get sick, not with coronavirus, with bronchitis, but excuse me. But nevertheless, that still did slow me down a bit. Other announcements before we get started. Phoenix Rising, my webcomic, has just passed its first 100 subscribers, so that's pretty fun. And we've also gotten some fan art, actually, which is pretty sweet, including the image you see up on the screen here now of my character, Regina, which is kind of wild, actually, considering this is a character that I've been acquainted with for probably 12 years now, since she used to be a tabletop role-playing character of mine. So it's kind of trippy for me actually seeing fan art of a character that has been part of me for so long, but trippy in a very cool way. And last announcement before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you haven't already, you should swing over to Dead Aussie Gamer's channel and check out the new live stream project he's doing, which I believe is called Minion Quest. Can't 100% remember off the top of my head because I'm goddamn awful with fucking names. But comedy D&D stream where the players are playing the monsters this time around, and their primary adversaries are the sorts of adventurers who would be delving into the dungeon. The cast of characters is pretty amusing so far, and I have to say that Sticky Fingers has become a personal favorite of mine. So definitely swing on over to his channel, check out his content, and look forward to some possible collaborative work between Michael and I in the future. Or as he put it when I brought the idea up to him, cool-laborative, because he's an adorable Australian dork, and I love him, and he's fantastic. So check out his channel, check out his live stream project. It's an all Aussie stream set for Australian time. I believe he goes live with it on Twitch for the time that he goes live with it on Twitch for me, I think is damn near 3 in the morning. But, if you're able to catch it when he's live on Twitch, you can watch it there, or you can check it out on his YouTube page. He uploads the videos, I believe, usually the day after he streams, maybe 2 days after, but he's got all the content over there. So with those announcements out of the way, let's get into it. Palanor. Just as a reminder, Palanor is, of course, the tabletop game that I've been designing since about last September now, is when I really got started on it. The original goal, of course, for those of you who remember my last big update video, was that I wanted to get that done by December. Oh, sweet summer child, what a foolish, foolish person past me was. I did not have a clear concept of just how much I was biting off. Now, as mentioned previously, part of the reason why that goal wasn't met is just honestly because of work. But, excuse me. But another part of the reason is simply the fact that I didn't take into account my own foibles when it comes to design. one of the things that I tend to become when I'm designing a game, and by a game in this case I mean like a tabletop campaign, is very detail oriented. I like to get down to nitty-gritty details for myself because that helps give me a clear vision of what I'm presenting so that I can more easily give a clear vision to my players. It helps me to keep things in order. It helps me to present them in a more detailed manner, in a more immersive manner. And immersion and roleplay are very key very key things I want to achieve with Palanor. I want the system to be one that you can easily dive into the roleplay aspect, that you can easily get involved with your character, and I want it to be flexible enough that you can really make the character you want to make in this setting. The problem that I ran into is I started becoming too detail-oriented with this. I let myself kind of forget what I'm putting together is a first draft. It is an alpha build, if you want to use video game design terminology. It's supposed to be rough. It's supposed to be, rough around the edges and a little dingy, a little dirty, and need that polish. I've been trying to put the polish in and put that focus in too early instead of just cranking things out and getting a playable version that is relatively bare bones but playable, ready to go, so that I can see from the system end of things what needs to be changed, what needs to be tweaked, where the weakness is, so that I can better shore them up with the strengths. And then also so that I can identify those strengths to begin with. Now, at the start of it, during the first couple of months, progress was going really well. Before I started writing in the journal with that initial video I did where I announced that I was beginning this project to begin with, some of you may remember that video where it was literally just me talking over a video of myself scrawling into this leather-bound journal I've got for about half an hour. I mentioned that, I don't actually recall if I mentioned it, but before I even started doing this, about 3 weeks before I started really getting into writing in the journal as opposed to just typing everything up in a word processor, and I do still stand by the decision to start writing in the journal because it has helped me to more easily commit things to memory, and it has made it much easier to reference the things I've already written as opposed to all the time it would take to scroll or search through a word processor. I can literally just thumb back pages, spend about a second, maybe 2 seconds looking something up, as opposed to the 15 to 20 that it would take scrolling all through a word processor to find that right little passage. Even though it slowed down the process of actually putting it together because I have to handwrite it, I was making good progress initially because I knew the base systems that I wanted to have in place. I knew which portions of those systems I wanted to be overarching, and I had a decent idea of how I wanted to apply those. So getting that bare bones stuff done came pretty easily, and then getting the races designed, for the most part, came easily. Technically speaking, I have the race portion almost entirely complete. There is one race entry that I have still left blank in the journal, because I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm actually going to go through with including this race, and if I do, how I'm going to approach it. And yeah, cool. Thanks for that update thing, for interrupting me in the middle of this. So I haven't decided how I want to approach that race, and so because I haven't decided how I want to approach them, because I'm still kind of foggy on that, I thought I had a clear idea when I included them in there, and I'll go into more detail on this sort of stuff in a later video, what the content I've actually got in there so far is. I'll go into detail in a future vlog. This one's just going to be more a general discussion of, how the progress has gone. But because I didn't really have a clear idea what I actually wanted to do with this race, when I initially thought that I did, I'd kind of fooled myself into thinking I did because I let myself get really excited for this particular idea. And I realized as I tried to put it down to the page that my vision was actually very clouded. And so I've left it blank. I've just left it there, left it alone, which was the correct decision. So from that, I moved into the skills. That should have been easy. That should have been so easy. And yet, partly because of the uptick at work at the time, that took me 3 months just writing out the skills. Now again, a good part of that was the uptick at work and me just really not having the energy to do it. Because of how busy I'd been at work and because of how tired I would get by the time I got home, I allowed myself to procrastinate when I really shouldn't have. I should have bitten the bullet and just started writing, because it would have made me feel better. It would have made me get into it just by knuckling down and starting it. Even if I wasn't satisfied with what I initially wrote at first, I would get into it. I know that I do that from the years I've done writing other things, writing short fiction, writing long fiction, attempts to write novels that never panned out. Working on the webcomic has been a big one with that. But, I allowed myself to get wrapped up in that I'm too tired, I just feel like doing something else thing, and kept postponing it. But even when I did write it, it took so much longer to get through that than it should have, because it ended up feeling like work. And now that I finished it, I realize why it ended up feeling like work. I've looked back at how I wrote everything, and actually I even looked back at how I was writing everything about halfway through and decided I need to make a change. Because that was the moment where it hit me that I let myself slip into that detail-oriented, habituated style that I had when I absolutely should not have done that. That was a huge mistake. So, to clarify, what exactly do I mean by this? What exactly did I do? Well, in order to clear that up, first I gotta let you know what one of the systems that's going to be overarching with Palanor is. And that is what I've taken to call in Calamity and Triumph. To make it as simple as I can, Calamity and Triumph are critical success and critical failure. Triumph obviously being success, Calamity being failure. So every roll you make is subject to the possibility of Calamity or Triumph. Basically, if you roll double sixes on your 2d6, that's Triumph. That represents your character succeeding to the absolute best of their ability. Double ones, on the other hand, is Calamity, which represents epic, painful failure, oftentimes. Oh, screw you! Gotta shut off those stupid notifications because they're making this really annoying. So, Calamity and Triumph is going to affect every roll you make, and that includes skills. The problem is, not only did I mistakenly allow myself to get wrapped up in writing these skills as full entries in what should be a rough draft, alpha build, which was a stupid fucking mistake, I also tried to get specific with the types of things that would happen with Triumph and the types of things that would happen with Calamity. The entire point of this game, the entire point of this system, was for it to be simpler, for it to be something that gives suggestions but leaves just enough vagary there for the GM to just say, okay, this gives me an idea of how to approach this. I want to look at the situation. What's the player doing? What are they attempting to do in the situation? Like, for example, let's say a player is trying to swim against a current in a dungeon because a wall busted and now the room is flooding and they want to try to swim out, but they've got to swim against the current. They roll Triumph. Oh, well, they grabbed the wall and kind of used that to help push them out, and they fought against the current and they successfully made it out. If they roll Calamity, well, maybe the current throws them back and they smack their head against the wall. It should have been something simple like that, where just knowing that it's Triumph, knowing that it's Calamity, you look at the situation, you make a judgment based on that situation, and then have the player roll potentially if they get smacked against the wall, or if they make it out, they make it out. Now they have the chance to possibly help the other players make it out. Simple, easy. I made the mistake while writing this entry, and I choose swimming because it's the first one that came to mind. It was one of the entries where I tried to get specific about the exact types of things that would affect the character if they roll Triumph, if they roll Calamity. This is a game that I was designing with the intent of not even including ranges, not including movement speeds, not including stuff to use a battle map. It was designed with the intent of using theater of the mind. And rules for that stuff would have been included if my players suggested to me during the playtest, hey, I think you should include these, I think they would help the game better. But I want to try the game without those first, because that's what my initial vision was. And yet here I am getting super specific about this stuff. And it dawned on me when I was about halfway through my skills entries, how long it was taking me, how specific I was getting, and how I was just shooting myself in the foot with that, because it went directly against the original core design concept that I had. It was a stupid mistake that I fell into, and it made that entire entry feel like work. Fortunately now, I'm past that. I've started on the entries for more portions of the character design, in this case, a portion called Flaws, which for those who are at all familiar with Savage Worlds, in its current iteration, and this is by design, Flaws are just essentially the hindrances system from Savage Worlds. I am more or less, admittedly, kind of aping it, adding in things that are specific to this setting and this world, yes, but more or less aping that system because I want characters that are going to be flawed. I want there to be mechanical effects from flaws, but at the same time, I also want there to be flaws that are more roleplay based. Savage Worlds, I think, does that actually very, very well with hindrances. So for the time being, I'm more or less going to ape that, and, you know, through playtesting, of course, things are always subject to change. But for now, just kind of more or less use a system that's already established, make it fit within this system that I'm building. That's the goal with that. And it has gone so much faster so far. Within the first day, I already managed to write about a fifth of all the total flaws that I have planned for this initial version of the game. Whereas with skills, it took me 3 months to get through what I think is a grand total of about 21 skills. If that, it might even be a little less. It's not that many. There are a couple of skills there that you wouldn't expect, that are things that you wouldn't see in most other tabletop role-playing games that are popular, but for the most part, it's the same sort of skills you would expect. It's not reinventing the wheel in any ways in that regard, yet it took me 3 months because of a stupid mistake I made. So this initial push, these initial hurdles, especially that last big one of getting through those skills, realizing the mistake I was making with how I was writing this, and knowing now to keep in mind that I have to avoid that old habit. I really have to for this to go smoothly. It's been very eye-opening, and as frustrating as it was getting through that first portion, I think ultimately it's a good thing. So that's about it. That's pretty much where we are with the state of Palanor. The races are done. The basic idea behind how the system functions is good to go. We've moved on to some of the more specific character creation stuff. Once I finish the hindrances, or the flaws, I'm going to go into the traits that are used for actually building the characters. And from there, we'll begin working on the magic system, start figuring out items, prices, how weapons are going to work, the finer points of how combat's going to work, because there's not going to be specific damage rolls with the way the system works, since it uses a wounds system for calculating damage and death. And then, design a couple of monsters, things like that, get things ready to go. And if things go well, hopefully by summertime, I can have something, good to go. If not, then hopefully by the end of the year. We'll just have to kind of see how things go with the flow of work. Of course, coronavirus slowing things down is going to leave me more time to work on it, but we'll just, have to see what the future brings. Ultimately, though, I'm pretty hopeful that things are going to go a lot more smoothly from here on out, now that I've identified some of the major mistakes that I was making with this initial couple of sections that I was putting together. And so that's about all I've got for this first Palanor vlog. If you liked the video and you'd like to see more, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon. If you've got any comments, suggestions, questions, ideas, leave them in the comments for me down below. The future videos on this are going to be a little bit more revealing for what I have in mind. And in the next one, I'm actually going to discuss some of what I've actually put into the game itself, as opposed to just discussing the hurdles and the mistakes and, all that part of the process. And then as design gets further on, I'll talk more about the design process, things like that. Kind of try to alternate between what I've actually got in the game in terms of the content and what I've got going on in terms of the design side. Sort of back and forth. Make sure to open up the description box down below to follow me on my social media presences. You can find me on Minds, Gab, Twitter, and Facebook. Do note, I am not especially active on Twitter or Gab. I use those mostly just to notify people of when videos go up. If you want to actually speak with me more directly, the best place to do so is on Minds or Facebook. Make sure also to take a look at Phoenix Rising. We should be getting the next episode up by this weekend. I believe that's what Hare was telling me, is that the next episode's coming along and should be ready to go up by this weekend, which is going to be, I believe, the official start for the second arc of the story, or at least the second chapter of this first arc. So, yeah, pretty exciting. We're officially moving away from the jungles of Dekand into the new location of New Bael. So I'm looking forward to that, because the intrigue in the story is definitely going to start ramping up from here on out. And yeah, lastly, once again, just a reminder to swing on over to Dead Aussie Gamer, give his channel a look. Like I said, Michael is an awesome guy. He definitely deserves some love. He definitely deserves to have his channel grow and his presence grow, because in my opinion, he is one of the best tabletop gaming content creators out there. And I don't think that for someone as genuine and just genuine, honest, and honestly, charismatic and interesting as he is, I think he deserves more love than he's been getting. So my presence, considerably smaller than his though it is, I'm still gonna do what I can to help him grow too. And that will just about do it, friends and gamers of all stripes. I do hope that you're staying safe during this whole pandemic. Please make sure to practice social distancing. Do take the pandemic seriously, but do not panic. Panic is the greatest danger that we face right now. So stay calm, practice social distancing, and you know what? Why not use the time to practice what I've been telling you guys at the end of my videos for a little while now? That when it comes to the world of tabletop gaming, you don't just want to sit at home and watch. Get out there. Or in this case, stay in. Contact some friends online. And why not use this time to do some gaming? Stay safe. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.